Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/spookshow. Then go over to morbidlybeautiful.com as we are now part of the Morbidly Beautiful Podcasting Network.
It's alive! It's alive! It's alive! You're too! You're too! You're too!
Everybody here dies by dawn. Dead by dawn!
Welcome to the Spookshow. Hello and welcome back to the All-American Spookshow podcast. I'm Josh. I'm joined here with Tiana.
Hey.
And the Professor Smoke.
What's up?
And last week, we talked about the original Final Destination from the year 2000. So now we fast forward all the way to the brand new one that just came out this past weekend, Final Destination Bloodlines. We all we didn't go to the theater together, unfortunately, but we all carved out a few hours and we went and checked it out. So we were here to report our findings. Now, we want to tell you right out the gate, since this is, this just came out, so there's a good chance a lot of people have not seen this yet, although it looks like it did pretty well this weekend, and we'll get into that. But if you have not seen it, we are a spoiler-filled podcast, so we're going to spoil the shit out of this movie for you. So if you want to go see it, I think it's pretty safe to say off the top, without getting into our final thoughts and everything, I think it's worth checking out, right? Like that, spoiler-free. If you like these kind of movies, would you all recommend people go checking this out?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I can say this because for me personally, we watched all of them before. We did the first one for the podcast, but we watched part 2, 3, 4, and 5. I did the same thing.
I crammed them in this week. I got them in. So
I would say for me, my personal rating of it, or at least, I'm not gonna. The first two movies are really good. The third one is pretty decent too. The fourth one I don't really care for too much. The fifth one I like better than the fourth one, but it was So really for me the weakest one is part 4. Part 4, then part 5. Then I'm not going to really go into my ranking of them. I'd really have to think about it. But I think this was definitely better than either part 4 or part 5, and probably at least as good as part 3 for me.
Yeah.
If not better.
Yeah. So spoiler free, if you like these movies, you'll like this one. It's an up the ante, right? I think it's a step up from a lot of these movies. May not every single one of them, but a lot of them. So,
and here is a little bit of a spoiler already. So if you've gotten to this far and we haven't spoiled anything, here's a little bit of one. Which I like this aspect of it. It starts off in the 60s.
Yeah.
Because it goes back in time a little bit, and I love that look. Of course, you got an awesome car. You got the. We'll get into it. I just want to throw that out there. I love the fact of that time period and the way they go with the architecture on the Space Needle. It's not the Space Needle, but it's called.
Yeah, they call it the Skyview, I think, right?
Skyview or whatever. Yeah, that's cool. And the music and everything on there. It's just really cool. Nice little throwback there that they haven't really done before, right?
Yeah, they have not done that before, but there is a good explanation for why they did it, and we'll get into that here shortly. But yeah, I just wanted to get that out there that if you don't want to listen to the full spoiler, just know that we do recommend going to check it out. Now, if you want to stick around for spoilers and our final star ratings and our final thoughts and everything, that'll be at the end of the show. But we just wanted to get that out there now. I also want to get out, we definitely want you to go check out aaspookshow.com. From there, you can find all of our past podcasts are archived. You can also go to our YouTube channel from there, where every month we have little mini series that we have over there, such as Video Vortex, Grindhouse Gutter, and Hammer Horror in Order. Those are 15 to 20 minutes long with video and everything. So those are pretty cool, short, spoiler-free looks at the movies that we're talking about there in the various genres and subjects that we talk about in each series. And of course, we upload episodes of the podcast over there too. So you can, wherever you get your podcasts, or if you're listening or watching over there now, we appreciate you. We would also appreciate it if you went over to patreon.com/spookshow and become a patron of the show. Help us out. You get bonus content and you get the podcast a day or two early. So that's your major perk, but you also get bonus content. Lots of stuff archived over there. We've been doing stuff over there for years. So if you want to get in over there, it's patreon.com/spookshow. We have a TeePublic shop where you can get logoed merchandise and some cool design shirts and stuff that we have. And I think they put it on mugs and pillows and other random stuff. So lots of cool stuff over there. If you want to check out our TeePublic shop, you can also find that by going to aaspookshow.com. So without any further ado, we'll go ahead and toss to the trailer for Final Destination Bloodlines.
Something's got a hold on me here. Oh!
family. You don't get to pick the one you get. Just gotta love the one you got.
I always knew this day would come.
I got it.
I don't think you got it.
I held him off for years.
Charlie, get up here.
He's a relentless son of a bitch. Won't stop till he finishes the job. Death is coming for our family.
I said, oh, 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 oh,
Grandma, what's happening to us?
Years ago, I had a premonition that started it all. I saw what death was about to do. I saved a lot of lives that night.
Everyone needs to get off the dance floor!
Lives that were never meant to be saved. But death doesn't like it when you mess with his plans.
This book, it will show you everything you need to know to keep our family safe.
It all started with Grandma. Death is coming for us because we were never supposed to exist.
Watch out!
Only by embracing death will it pass you by.
maybe Death's not actually coming for our family. Because that would be crazy.
Good luck.
All right, there you go. Now, usually this is where we say we go around the table and see if we've seen this movie or not, but we can't do that this time because this is the first time we've all seen it. Now, I will add before we get into some of the background stuff, I went and saw it in IMAX. How did you guys check it out this weekend?
We saw it at our local AMC that actually has a Prime. It's called.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, which is
a pretty big screen, not
IMAX
size, but it has the seatings that vibrate or whatever.
Oh, okay.
During certain scenes.
So I think they call it. What do they call that at Regal?
Rumble,
It's like
Rumble.
RDX or 4DX or something. So I guess it's similar to that.
No, well, they just call it Prime. AMC calls it Prime,
Yeah,
but it's not 40X though because it doesn't move necessarily.
Okay.
It's just they call it Rumble seating because it's like if you had a big subwoofer in there, but it's not. It's some sort of mechanical.
So maybe I'm getting all these gimmicks mixed up. But Regal has that one they call RDX. So maybe that's similar to that.
Oh yeah. It's probably similar to that. Probably so.
Yeah.
I don't know if we've seen. I guess we've seen an RDX movie. Yeah, right. So it's kind of somewhat similar. Yeah, they just call it Prime, and you have better speakers. You have a whole line of speakers along the walls, more than you have in a normal regular theater.
Sounds really good.
Yeah, it sounds.
Really I love that aspect of seeing stuff in IMAX too, because the huge screen is cool. Now I will say I saw it in IMAX, but this is like the kind of the lesser than version of IMAX. It's IMAX. It's like what they call IMAX, but it's not like the full 70 millimeter type display. Like the full IMAX. There's only so many of those in the country. True. Unfortunately, I don't have one near me, but it's the close enough IMAX, right? So the big screen and the picture is cool. The sound is what I like in those. And I think it's the RDX or whatever, the similar thing. It's very, very, I love that part of it, especially with movies like this, where you want that extra punch of the good sound and everything, right?
Yeah.
But I will say, after seeing it in IMAX, one of the coolest things, other than just the fact that this was shot for IMAX, so certain scenes of it for me look really cool. It was worth it to see it like that. The stuff in between, it is what it is. It's kind of like, all right, well, most of this is unnecessary, but these cool scenes, that's worth it for that. But on the way out, they gave us everybody posters that said, "I survived Final Destination Bloodlines in IMAX." So that was kind of cool, right?
Yeah.
Get something you probably wouldn't be able to get otherwise.
True.
I love that gimmick type stuff. You don't see it as much anymore, right? Smoke, like
no,
giving stuff like before movie, after movie, something to do with the movie. That you get something for it, right?
Yeah, it's a product of, like, of course, the older type of stuff, but I wish they would do more of that.
Yeah, like, you know,
really wish these drive-in theaters would do some of that stuff.
And I'm sure some places do it better than others. I'm sure, like, say, Alamo Draft House probably does shit like that. And, you know, the more niche type of theaters, they probably do that. But, you know, like, I'm thinking old school, like, you know, here's a barf bag, right?
Yeah.
Stuff like that. You know, like, I think that gimmick kind of stuff is pretty cool, right?
Definitely, yeah.
You like
I think
to see more of it.
They need to bring that back for more movies, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I guarantee somewhere, like, say, for instance, last year when Terrifier 3 came out, they were probably giving out barf bags or something like that, you know, because that's the kind of movie that... But those are the kind of movies that deserve that kind of treatment. Like, here's something special, something cool.
Yeah. And not quite on par with Dr. Butcher MD in Times Square back in the day when they had the Butcher Mobile with a bunch of scantily clad nurses, I guess, on the back of it doing, like, blood drives, so to speak. You know, I'm not really, I don't think, but you know, driving that around Times Square, you don't quite get that these days.
But, well,
but at least something, you know.
Back to this movie, they kind of have done some stuff like that, right? I'm sure y'all have seen stuff online, right? Like there was a log truck driving around LA or something. Right?
Yeah, that's true.
I heard that was a fake log truck too.
Yeah, well, you could tell when you look at it, you could tell it's not. It's like rubber.
Yeah.
Logs
what I said when I saw that is, hey, they need to have styrofoam logs that actually fall off the back of it.
Yeah.
So the person might, oh my god,
oh fuck, you know,
cause a major pile.
That would probably still hurt people. I don't think you should.
And then they had the huge billboards that make it look like the workers are falling off of it.
So, I mean, like, at least there is a little bit of a trend, it seems like, over the last few years for some movies to kind of play into it a little bit.
Smile is the other one.
Yeah.
Smile, right?
That's the one
at the games and things. And yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, at least there is an effort to kind of have that viral underground kind of, you know, whether the movie deserves it or not is a whole different conversation, right? or I should say, whether the movie pays off on these promises and stuff. That's a whole different conversation, but at least they're trying, right? So give them credit for that. But yeah, some of the background that I could dig up on this one already. Now, well, I guess we could say outright that this is part 6, right? So like that is actually one of the alternate. That was the working title. Actually, was Final Destination 6, and they decided to change it to Final Destination or settle on it to Final Destination Bloodlines. It actually premiered a few weeks ago, April 29th. Of 2025, it had its big red carpet premiere in New York City, but it released officially this past Friday, May 16th, 2025, wide, and it was produced by New Line Cinema, Practical Pictures, Freshman Year, and Fireside Films, and it was distributed by Warner Brothers Pictures. It's, of course, rated R, total runtime of 1 hour and 50 minutes, although it didn't really feel that long to me. This easily has to be, and I don't have all the run times of all the movies, but I'm pretty sure this is the longest Final Destination movie by a little bit. But it didn't feel like that to me, right? Like it had really good pacing, so it didn't drag. Of course, IMDb lists this as a horror. It was filmed in Vancouver, BC, Canada. They kind of broke up the production on this one because the production actually started late July into October of 2023 and then picked back up. And I'm assuming this is where they primarily did it from March to May 13th of 2024. The reason that there was this huge gap in the production was because it was delayed by the SAG-AFTRA strike. Remember that happened in 2023. Yeah. So I guess there was a huge delay and then they go back and I don't know what was done the first time around, what got changed. I'm sure shit got changed. I would imagine, you know, what was filmed then, and all that jazz. I'm not sure, but yeah, 2 different pretty big filming gaps there. From best I can tell, a budget of $50 million, which I believe would put it as the highest budget of by a little bit on any of the Final Destination movies. And so far, according to one thing that I saw, it has a worldwide gross of $102 million. Now, good. The early estimates, at least domestically, I don't have like the worldwide numbers, but if that number is right, then it's broke 100 million worldwide. Domestically here in the U.S. this weekend, it came in at number 1 and it made right at $51 million. Oh. And it kicks some ass too. Like the closest movie was Thunderbolts, you know, the latest Marvel movie, number 2 at $16.5 million. So yeah, it kicked some major ass this weekend. You know, we were talking about that last week that we figured this would do well.
Yeah.
Surprise, surprise. It did.
Because it's been, what was the do you remember, I don't know if you have it right on hand or not. What was the last year? The last movie came out what year?
2011.
Yeah, so it's been a while. So
Oh yeah.
So I can guarantee you there will be another one.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but like, we pointed out last week when we were breaking down like how much these movies made, part 4 and part 5 did well. Part 5 made almost $200 million, but they just, I don't know the reasoning. They just said, well, fuck, put it on the shelf,
Yeah.
Absence can make the heart grow fonder sometimes. So I guess there is that, like if they'd have just continued to crank them out every 2 or 3 years, maybe we wouldn't care anymore.
I think
but
the story just started getting run down. That's why I like this one.
Yeah.
It's a change up.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did change the story enough, and it's a new path a little bit to, a slight change. And I'm also glad too that they got it in to give Tony Todd a good farewell, right? Like, it's almost like 3 from Hell in a way.
Yeah.
Watching Sid Haig, like you kind of see the last little thing for Sid Haig. I think he was in another movie or two that might have released after 3 from Hell, but that's pretty much the end of Sid Haig's career right there. You see that. And so that movie kind of gave him a proper goodbye in a way. This movie did for Tony Todd, right?
Yeah.
And I think it played out perfectly. Like it's almost like you kind of gave him a moment to speak on life or something,
Yeah.
And if you're watching that and you're knowing that Tony Todd unfortunately passed away this past November, and just his appearance and everything was kind of sad to see that, like, you could clearly tell he was he's not in good health.
Yeah, he was. I mean, I'm not sure what his age is at the time of his death or at the time of this movie, but you could tell he definitely looked a lot different than, say, he did in the last one.
Yeah, he was not. And one thing that I had seen, so I didn't read much into it, but I had seen that it took a lot for just to get what they got out of him, kind of thing, like, because he was sick, even doing this. By the way, when he passed away, he was 69 years old.
69.
Yeah, which isn't extremely old, but unfortunately, but I think he had some type of cancer. Yeah, he had stomach cancer. That's what caused his death. But yeah, I think they had said, or I had read that it took them a little bit of extra effort and a little bit of longer time to get through the scene with him.
Ultra fire cervical.
But I'm glad that they were able to give him that final moment and give the fans the final moment with him and everything, considering what he meant not only to this franchise, but to just horror in general, right? Candyman and everything else that the dude did throughout his career. So at least you get that final goodbye to Tony Todd. So in that regard, it worked out that, like, it almost kind of sucks that they waited this long to do it, because you might have been able to get more out of him, right? If you'd have done this, how many years did we say it was? 14 years ago? Yeah, 2011.
Yeah,
sometime in the last 14 years, you couldn't have, we might have been able to get some more out of it, right? But at least you got that. But yeah, so far so good money wise. I mean, like, off to a big weekend. Now I'm sure some big movies are about to start coming out because, we're about to approach Memorial Day here in the United States. So it probably won't last very long as far as like being the top movie. I'm not sure what's coming out next week, but I know like what Lilo and Stitch is coming out pretty soon.
Yeah.
Mission Impossible.
Yeah. So there's some movies that's about to come out and cream it, but at least for a week or two, right? It'll get what it gets. And it'll probably go down as one of the bigger horror movies of the year. We were just talking about that. What was the biggest one so far? Money wise.
Oh, Sinners.
Sinners. Yeah. So far, that one's raking it in.
I can tell you what I think is the most underrated right now, and I agree with this because I saw it pop up somewhere on Facebook, my feed or whatever, and I agree with it, is The Damned. We saw that early on, like January, I think.
I remember you saying something about that like back in January.
Yeah. It's good. I mean, I'm not saying it's great and it's a masterpiece. I mean, it's very good. I don't want to say it's a masterpiece or anything like that, but it is very much underrated for people out there, and it is on, I think, Hulu. I think that's where I saw it. So here's a recommendation for that. If anybody out there hadn't seen The Damned, I think that's an underrated one.
Dude, I have such a list going. Like I got to catch up on a lot of 2025 stuff. I believe of what I have watched, and like I said, I have not watched a lot yet, but of the ones that I have watched so far, the one that I liked was Getaway. That had I always forget the dude's name. It's not Simon Pegg's guy that's in That was in Shaun of the Dead, the other dude.
The other guy. Oh, Nick
Snow?
Frost.
Is that his name?
Nick Frost. That's Nick Snow. No, Frost. You get it. You know.
I think that was in Game of Thrones or something. Right? No, yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the one that I'm thinking of. That was a good movie. It's a solid. I'm not saying it's a masterpiece, like you said, Smoke, about the damned. You know, it's not.
Yeah,
it's not that, but it's fun.
Yeah.
So so far, that's the one that I know I've seen that this year that I really recommend. This one might rank pretty high though. This Final Destination that once we get into the ratings, we'll see. But this one ranks pretty high. I mean, so far, this is one of the better ones I have watched yet. I know I still got a lot to watch, but so far, it's one of the better ones I've seen this year so far. And
I can tell you a movie that we saw a trailer for during this, and I'm sure you saw the trailer for it too. Is that that I'm not interested, and in fact, I'm less interested in seeing this than I was in the first one, and that was Megan 2.
Oh, you know what? I don't know if this is an IMAX thing or not, but they didn't really show that many trailers.
Oh, they didn't?
No,
oh, okay.
Yeah,
maybe
I
maybe it's
think
IMAX.
that's an IMAX.
Probably
thing.
Yeah,
is,
like, dude, I might have seen 3 trailers, maybe.
Lucky.
And then like the movie started. I'm like, fuck yeah, here we go. You know, so,
Yeah.
I guess they figure out you're paying that little extra money, so let's just get to the fucking But
And what were they trailers for movies that would be in IMAX only anyway, or no?
I don't even remember, to be honest with you. I don't even remember what trailers were. And I've told you before, I kind of start to try to tune out trailers a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not going that far. I'm not like you know,
I do.
but I try to, I'm not really paying that close of attention to it. But I'm pretty sure the ones that I saw, I had already seen before, so it wasn't, But they only showed a few, yeah. So I was like, hell yeah, here we go, right to the movie.
So do you kind of turn to whoever you're with in the movie and kind of like reenact that scene from Planes, Trains, and Automobiles? How about that Bears game? That was a great game, right?
Yeah. Or those Bears this year? Yeah.
No Bears.
Now, usually my play is to like try to ignore it as best I can by like looking down at my phone or something, like just dim my phone all the way down so like nobody can really see it or anything, and then I just kind of mess around with that until the trailers are over.
I've been ignoring the Bring Her Back.
And
do you know about that?
No, and I don't want to know anything about
it. It's from the brothers that did Talk to Me.
Ah, okay.
So yeah, that comes out next week.
So it's got a good base. It's got a good foundation at least. So we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and to that, I'm glad that I never watched any trailers for this one. Never once.
Yeah.
Now I actually want to go back and look at the trailer and see what it would have fucked up.
I know.
I haven't done that yet, but I need to. But yeah, I didn't watch. The only thing I knew about this in cursory was it was going to have something to do with. It was going to go further back in time. So I kind of knew that from something I'd read, and I knew it had something to do with like a Sky Needle restaurant type thing, and that's just because there was some random picture that I saw.
Now I've seen the picture
poster.
too,
We saw the
I was
poster.
thinking it was the thing in Seattle.
Yeah. Which did they ever place geographically? I know it's like they called it Skyview, and it wasn't the one in Seattle. But did they ever say? I don't remember them ever saying like we are in Illinois or wherever the hell they are.
Yeah, I don't remember them saying that either.
Yeah, it's just some nondescript city.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be set in Seattle based on the poster. I thought it was going to be the Space Needle, but I guess they just didn't want to, because in the storyline this thing does topple, right, or it gets not topple.
Yeah.
It goes. It goes dead or whatever.
Yeah,
and then they end up.
They want you to think. They want you to think that's what it is, but it's not really that. So they don't. They didn't want to get sued by the city of Seattle or the Space Needle or something. But yeah, you know what it is.
Yeah. And that, like I said, we can talk about for a moment, just because I thought that was a cool scene because.
Oh yeah.
Mainly because it's set in the '60s, and in the architecture inside there, where they get up to the top, and it's that bar, and it's a very '60s atmosphere to it or whatever, and. It's a cool scene, I think. And then they had the band playing Shout, right?
Yep. Yeah, that's a whole key thing, too. And I love that. And we talked about this last week with the first one. I love that, they carry on that tradition in this one where, like, you can see shit happening all around. Like, as the viewer, you can see, like, oh, fuck, this is not good. And they're jumping up, and every time they jump, the floor is cracking, and you're like, oh, shit.
Well, first of all, nobody's going to build. I know they have bridges that have a glass bottom. Nobody's going to build a Space Needle with a glass bottom like that.
Oh, God.
No. You might have a small portion you can walk around as a line of people, but you're not going to have a place where you can have like 50 or 60 people on a dance floor of glass. that high up in the air.
All jumping in unison to shout.
Yes.
Out of all the films, I think that part in the beginning was probably my most like high anxiety.
Yeah, because I do too. I'm not scared necessarily of heights, let's say, but when I'm watching a movie of people on heights, like Cliffhanger or what, when somebody's way up high and there's this dramatic moment, your palms start sweating, kind of what it reminded. Even though I myself am not really that scared of heights.
That's always, and once again, we talked about this last week with the first one. Like that's always the thing about these movies is that anticipation. That as a viewer you see it, but like they don't see it, so you're like, stop doing that. Get away from that. Like
yeah. Or like also the support beam, right? The bolts start coming out. You know, the support beam holding the thing up there or whatever when they're dancing, the cracks forming, and then the bolts start coming out of the support beam. And
also, and what I'm a professional, so I can say this, my professional opinion, that little fucker that was throwing the penny. And then the penny became a whole thing throughout this entire movie, right? Like
all the way to the end, from the beginning to the end.
Literally.
He's picked penny out of the thing, like it's a penny that people have, the whole thing of
pulled it out of a fountain.
Yeah, people make a wish, throw it in a well or whatever. You're not supposed. It's bad luck to pick up that money, and the kid's picking up the money, pocketing it or whatever to take it up there and throw off the top of the, the sky needle, whatever thing later. And then that comes back to bite him and everybody else, kind of karma from this penny or whatever.
This whole thing collapses. This entire thing is basically started by him, right? By throwing a penny off the top.
Yeah, basically the penny collapses this entire.
Yeah.
How much did they say it was? 9,000 tons.
Yeah.
Whatever it was.
I think it was other stuff too.
Well, no, it was, but that
was the trigger, though.
Yeah. It's the Rube Goldberg contraption thing again. It's like the penny mousetrap.
Yeah.
The penny is this turning the crank that snaps the plank and boots the marble down the chute and watch it roll. All that shit. It's the same thing. Like it's like that penny started it. It went to the vent, snapped off a piece of fan, which blew off and hit like a gas line. Right. Like so, it was just that little domino effect.
Yeah.
It's all started by the asshole with the penny, but at least the asshole gets it.
Oh yeah,
right in this.
He was getting away. He went down the steps.
Yeah, and then he's like, he gets all the way down to the ground, like smiles, like I made it, and then a piano falls from the sky.
And now that whole scene was cool too. The whole penny, and there again is the penny, because the penny comes out
and then goes back in the fountain,
lands on top of the piano and starts spinning around, and then it lands on heads, and then the piano, the weight. Finally, not the weight of the penny, just
crashes,
the fact that it,
crashes into that lady that was up against the glass.
Oh yeah. Oh, there's tons of brutality. We could spend the next 15 minutes talking about the brutality of just that scene.
Yeah.
Not the whole movie, because there's tons of it, but just that scene. And you can imagine. I mean, like all these movies always do that. They go into grand detail of a disaster.
Well, while we're at this point in this right now, what is y'all's favorite? What do you call that in this franchise? That instigating moment or whatever you want to call it. The first scene that starts the whole, cheating death thing. So.
Since last week we did the first movie, and now we've fast forwarded to the sixth movie, and like we said off the top, we all went back and watched the other movies this week to get ready for this one. I was before we answer your question, I was interested to see how it would all tie together story wise. That was the main reason I wanted to watch it. Like, all right, where's the connective thread here? And it did connect. A lot of these movies connected a lot more than I thought. What was it by the time you got to the fourth one? It was just like, it doesn't really connect at all.
Yeah, until you get to the fifth one.
And then it swings back around and it connects. But that fourth one had, I want to say almost zero connection.
No.
Yeah, and I don't even think it had any Tony Todd in it either. No. Zero, no voice of Tony Todd,
nothing. and there was, I don't think they talk about any of the other incidents that had happened before. Yeah. None.
You mean in this new one or in the fifth one?
No, in the fourth one.
Oh, fourth one. Yeah, you might be right. Yeah, like it's almost zero connection to that for some reason. I guess they tried to go away from it, and then that was a mistake, and then they swung back around. But
not to mention the fact that they were shooting for 3D, and you can tell in part 4 that they were shooting for 3D.
It was so bad. So it does not hold up. That 3D effect and everything, just a lot of the a lot of the CGI, whatever, the effects, whatever, it doesn't hold up.
Visual effects.
That one was 2009, and it feels like it.
Yeah, maybe I never saw it in the theater. Maybe it looked cool in 3D in the day back then when it came out, but not in 2D now when you're watching it back on.
I did see it in the theater back then in 3D, and it looked. I remember it looking fine.
Yeah,
it's not Avatar or anything like that, but it was fine, right?
Yeah,
but no, it does not age. It does not age well. But to go back to your original question, which one of these big disaster setups? I think it's for me. I think it's the second one, the log truck.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know
I think
why
all of
too?
us, yeah,
Because they could happen, and it does happen.
Well, see, that's always the thing. Now, granted, I guess all of them in their own ways could happen. Now,
could happen in a way. Yeah,
I will say, obviously, it's played to the max. It's turned up to 11. It's goofy and it's over the top in a lot of ways. That one we were just talking about was the fourth one, right, with the racetrack.
Yeah.
That one was That one was.
Yeah.
I mean, it's everything.
That's probably the worst one.
It's everything you want it to be, I guess. But like, it's so corny.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of gore in
it's
there.
Almost unlikely to happen.
Yeah. Very implausible. The most implausible of them.
I feel like that one was cartoonish.
Very.
I think it also probably had to do with the 3D, like I was talking about.
Yeah.
The 3D effect
Maybe
they were going for, like the car flying into the stands, like with the engine landing on the girl.
There was one cool aspect of that too. The credits with the X-ray. You remember what I'm talking about, like the X-ray?
We were talking about that because
that
was
kind of cool, but like still
that was, and it reminded us of what was that show?
Oh yeah, 1,000 Ways to Die.
The intro to that show back in the day. Remember that same time period.
Yeah, I was about to say.
We looked it up. It was 2008 when that show. So somebody kind of bit off of somebody else when that was.
Yeah. I still stick with the log truck.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. That's both of ours too.
Because all of them in their own ways are fine for what they are.
Yeah.
Those 4 and 5, like you mentioned, not so much, but like, they are what they are. But yeah, I think that one.
Yeah.
Now here's the next question to that. Where does this 6th one rank as far as like the Skyview? Where do you think that compares to the big events, the big disasters?
Well, for me personally, what's cool about the first movie is it's the first one. You're seeing it when you first see that, you don't expect, unless you already knew everything about this movie, you don't expect it to unfold the way it does.
Yeah, and that one's just setting up the premise to me. Looking back at this whole thing,
it doesn't hold up as well on a repeated viewing as far as it's great. It's fine. It's airplane like disasters are terrible, but number one, it's not all that gory, right? So once you get over the premise of it happening, and this being the first one, then it's not really all that spectacular when you go back, other than the anxiety you kind of anybody feels from being on an airplane or whatever and having some disaster in the back of your mind, some disaster may be happening or whatever. Other than that anxiety, it's like it's not the best replayability, I guess, as far as rewatching it and being like, oh shit, this, but I think the second one with the log truck does have that.
Yeah.
And like you said, there's more fear of that happening.
Oh yeah.
There's more chance of something like that happening on the road, even if it's not a log truck.
That came out in 2003, and anybody that has seen that movie, there's no way for the last 22 years you haven't thought of it when you get behind a log truck on the highway.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, we were on the way home tonight from seeing the movie, and it wasn't a log truck, but it was a truck full of ladders. I mean, just every kind of ladder you can imagine, just like stacked up, very dangerously stacked on top of this pickup truck.
It's like when you get behind every once in a while, I'll see a truck. It's clearly like just a regular old, like normal sized Toyota Tacoma or something. And they'll have 84 pallets stuck, like stacked to the back of this thing. And you're just like, I'm going to get
basically away. Like this was, but ladders instead of
I'm going to get away from this fucker. I'm just going to get as far away as I can. Thanks, Final Destination 2, for ruining my life.
And then also on the way up there, I saw, I don't know if you were dozing or didn't see it or something. I mentioned there was a tire tread in the road, and by tire tread I mean the entire tread, the whole round. It looked like a full tire, but it was just a tread that came off, sitting in the middle of the middle lane. What I'm like, oh shit,
yeah, dude, like
those like trigger moments. You're like, oh,
dude, I've been paranoid all week. Like between watching these other Final Destination movies and now this one, all week I've been like looking around.
It's gonna be that what's that effect called? We're talking about the
Rube Goldberg contraption. Yeah.
yeah.
Oh yeah. Like I'm looking around like, man, if that thing falls and hits that, then the air conditioner might blow up. Like some goofy shit. It just makes you paranoid. Trust me, I will say this: if you've made it this far and you've never watched any of these movies or this one in particular, if you're a high anxiety person, you might not want to. You might not want to partake in the series.
What about the one? Which movie was it that had the gym? In the gym scene with the sword.
The fourth one.
Is that the fourth one? That's probably the best part of the fourth one to me. That was cool. Like, I mean, it's ridiculous. It's not going to happen. Who's going to put these fucking scimitars above this piece of weight equipment? Exactly positioned to where it would cut your head off.
Well, there was I think you're combining two things. There was the one. I think that might have been the fifth one.
What's that?
The scimitars.
Yeah, it was.
I'm thinking of the gym. The gym with the scimitar swords that look like they're going to cut his head off, but they don't.
Yeah, that was the guy like he's in like the football workout gym or something, and they're all pumping.
Yeah.
No, that was the fourth one.
Was that the fourth
one?
Okay.
Well, I'm thinking of the other gymnastics scene where that girl's doing the gymnastics.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that was crazy.
That kill is over the top.
Oh yeah, that is insane. Like, I don't think this would actually even if by chance you flipped off and landed like that.
It would not be like that.
That girl exploded.
Yeah, her legs blew out totally. I mean, literally, the bones blew out from her back.
Did she have like C4 strapped to her chest as she was doing gymnastics? What the fuck? There's some bad ones throughout the history of it. And I'm sure we'll get to part 2 through 5 as time moves on here from the Spook Show. Obviously, I'm sure we're Final Destination out at this point, so we will we will move on.
Yeah, we crammed them all. Most of them. We crammed 2 of them in last night, right? Wasn't it before 3? Oh shit, we crammed in 3. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, I kind of slowly watched them throughout the week, but yeah, like I said, it made me paranoid all week. So if you're a high anxiety person, don't do that. I wouldn't recommend 6 Final Destination movies in a week.
Especially the third one with the roller coaster.
Oh yeah, the roller coaster.
And that one's so long. That's probably the longest scene.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Where everybody gets killed.
Yeah, we were talking about it. Like if you think about you riding a roller coaster, what does that take? A minute? And a half, maybe 2 minutes on the longest one you could think of.
Yeah,
but this scene is like, it goes on for like the longest roller coaster ever. It's just to show all the carnage that happened. Yeah. And then the funny thing is when they go and show the actual event after they had the premonition and they, okay, let's get off or whatever, they get off. And then the actual thing happens. It's like boom. It's like, it's over.
Yeah.
Whatever,
yeah. Kind of
just the magic of movie making, right?
Kind of that way with the log truck one too, right? Like you see this whole epic log truck accident, and then when the actual accident happens, it's like right down the street from right where it's stopped. It's like right there.
Yeah. It's like it doesn't even happen in the same spot. It's just right there.
It just happens like right beside them, so they can see it. We'll get to the towards the end here in a second. We'll get to what we think is the I guess what I think is the highlight kill, and this is going to be a tough one for this one, I think. Because there's some pretty good ones in here, right? Like I didn't take notes because I'm seeing it in the theater, so I didn't take as many notes as we usually do. But like, you've got, and we've got the April Fool's Day effect, right? Smoke of the entire first 20 minutes or so of the movie is all horseshit. Because it's a premonition, right? And then like she actually in this one she actually stops the entire because that's the other we haven't talked about that. In every other movie, the person sees the premonition of the thing happening, then the thing like. They might manage, girl or guy or whoever sees the premonition, they might manage to bring, say, 5 to 10 people with them.
Yeah, that wasn't with their original group.
Yeah, they say 5 to 10 people, and then everybody else still dies. Well, in this one, she manages to. Well, she doesn't save anybody, right? No, in the premonition,
she saves everybody. I guess you could say because she like.
No, in the premonition, yeah, you're right. She sees the premonition, she dies all the way. Like,
in the premonition, everybody dies.
Then she comes to and she manages to stop it, so nobody died. So there's the twist, right? In this one is that but the bad part of this is now all those people went on to have lives that they should not have had. So
and kids that they wouldn't have had,
kids and grandkids, and So like now death is chasing down hundreds of people throughout their entire family bloodline. Therefore, Final Destination Bloodlines, right? That's where you get the title. But
which is cool concept to make it different than the others.
Yeah. Because
really, I mean, each movie has had its own kind of little thing or whatever, but they've all been very similar in that, like we just mentioned, there's a event, the premonition, people get off of whatever it is, plane, roller coaster, whatever, and then the event happens anyway.
Yeah.
But
And then the
formula,
formula is you're following that 5 to 10 people that they saved, and each person dies until you to the end, right? That's the formula.
Yeah.
So
I thought they did good at breaking the formula up for this one.
Yeah, yeah. Although I was kind of disappointed that we weren't in this 60s time frame anymore.
Yeah. Because that was excellent. That was a nice touch.
Yeah. But you do get cheated a little bit by that April Fool's, and if you've seen the movie April Fool's Day, you know what I'm saying. Yeah. By that, like, I just saw a bunch of grisly death, and now Tiana can't count it toward the kill count.
Yeah.
It was all horseshit. None of it mattered. Yeah. Now, there is a theory, because they didn't, I was thinking as I was watching it that they might go down this road, but they really didn't seem like they did too much of possibly connecting this event to the entire franchise.
Yeah.
Like every death you've seen now is a part of this.
Yeah.
And they didn't do that, right? Maybe I'm mistaken.
They didn't could have done that. Would have been an interesting thing if they had done that and tied like these families were from that family line or whatever.
That's
why they all died.
When I heard, the title of it, that's what I was
thinking. And then when I put together eventually that like the little boy that she saves at the Skyview turns out to be Tony Todd's character.
Yes.
Bloodworth, right? JB, they call him throughout the movie, and then you turn out, it's his character who's been there since movie 1, right? So I was thinking,
and the thing that,
that maybe that's the connection, that maybe that's the connective thread. Like this is like Patient Zero. This is the event that started all this shit. But they didn't go down that path, but they could have.
Well, not to mention the kind of focal that's been going on, I guess, since earlier movies of like people saying that, well, Tony Todd is death. He's the one, because you kind of see, you could see that could have been the case just because of his insight into everything and his one-liner quips that he has in some of the other movies that are
showing up and being creepy and everything. But like you said, now that throws that out the window. That's that theory,
which is better that way. I mean, with Tony Todd actually dying in real life, unfortunately.
Yeah,
if they had intended anything like that, I'm sure they would have changed it up.
If they actually were actually at any point going to aim for that, then that stopped that. So maybe that's just the best way to get out of it and move on.
Yeah.
Mr. Projectionist, stop the show. Here's great news you ought to know. We've just got a shipment of taste-thrilled treats, all tip-top quality and delicious eats. There are hot dogs and popcorn and candy galore. There's soft drinks and coffee and a whole lot more. So direct your steps to our refreshment stand to enjoy the finest snacks in all the land.
So I would assume that anything moving forward now may or may not be tied to this at all. Like they could go a different direction again if they wanted to. And to what you said earlier, this movie has done well and probably will continue to do well for the next month or so. So, I think we'll probably see another one. I don't think that's a stretch. As to whether it's tied together, we'll see, but I think we'll see another one. One other couple random notes. The trailer for this that we were talking about that I still have not seen, and now I can. It had, at least as of the, this was, okay. It had 178.7 million views in its first 24 hours, which makes it the second most watched horror trailer of all time, behind It from 2017. That one in its first 24 hours had 200 million views. So this is the second highest watched trailer, which I cannot count myself to the 178.7 million.
No. And how do we manage not to see it in the theaters?
I haven't been to that many movies over the last month or so.
That might be the case.
I don't think they really even showed it. They probably felt like they didn't have to show it.
Once again, now
they probably had to have it somewhere.
I'm sure they did. Other than like Sinners, right there. If you think about it, though, there haven't been a lot of horror movies released over the last month or two in theaters.
And I didn't go see Sinners; it wasn't playing.
I haven't seen that yet, so I don't know. Sometimes too, and I remember working in theaters. Sometimes you get certain movie companies won't let trailers play in front of their movies. Like say if you go see a couple of Disney movies, they might not put Warner Brothers movies in front of their movies and vice versa. And shit. Maybe they're looser with that now, but back in the day, they were like, don't put New Line in front of this. Don't do it.
Yeah.
Another interesting note. Remember when they're clearly in the sky view, there's a woman, an older woman that just straight up catches on fire and she's running around, doing the fire run, right? Yeah. That was all, that was not CGI. It may have been bumped up a little with CGI, but that was an actual stunt done by Yvette Ferguson. She is 71 years old. Man. She's a long time stunt woman who actually unretired to do this. She was retired and she came out and said, I want to be caught on fire to do this. So that makes her the oldest stunt woman known to be caught on fire on film. She's 71 years old. So it sets the world record for, I guess, catching a stunt woman on fire. But I thought that was kind of a cool little tidbit that I saw. This was directed by Zach Lipovsky, who did Leprechaun Origins, that classic, and Freaks.
Well, he's come a little bit further, at least.
And the movie Freaks. And also it was directed by Adam B. Stein, who also directed Freaks. So apparently they work as a team, I guess now. Zach Lipovsky and Adam B. Stein. It's a story by John Watts, who was the director for Clown. You remember that one a handful of years ago?
Where the one that Eli Roth produced or whatever?
That one? Maybe he did. I don't remember the whole premise of that one. Was like the dude puts on like clown makeup or something, and then starts actually turning into some kind of
that was a good movie. That was an underrated movie. There, if people are listening to this, one other underrated recommendations, that's one.
There you go. And he also directed all three of the newer MCU Spider-Man movies. He directed Spider-Man Homecoming, Spider-Man Far From Home, and Spider-Man No Way Home. Yeah, that's the dude that wrote the story for this, but he did not do the screenplay. He did. The screenplay was written by Guy Busick and Laurie Evans. Guy Busick did Scream from 2022. Remember when they brought it back? Mm-hmm. So that's the dude that wrote that. And he also wrote Scream 6, the sequel to that Scream movie, right? And Abigail, which came out last year. Oh. He wrote that. And Laurie Evans mostly worked on TV series, specifically one called Wicked Wicked that ran along. Wicked Wicked Games that ran a few years back. Sure. And then another one called Lucky Dog. But yeah, so that's the lineage of this movie was John Watts, Guy Busick, Laurie Evans, who had worked on Clown and the Scream franchise. So that's kind of the brain trust for this one. So if you think about the newer Scream movies and I don't know how Leprechaun Origins gets mixed in there with the director, but there's a good lineage here, right? Of some recent stuff that's been pretty good.
Yeah.
Stars. I'll just mention a few names here since we already talked about Tony Todd, obviously, is William Bloodworth. He was in Candyman. He was in The Crow. Unfortunately, he just passed away last November, but Brett Bassinger as Iris, she was in 47 Meters Down Uncaged. Haven't there been like 2 or 3 of those damn things now?
Yeah, I think so.
Like you take one movie that has an interesting premise and then you just run it into the fucking ground. 47 Meters Down. And she was in the DC series Stargirl, and then she's been in a handful of Nickelodeon stuff. So Iris, I'm talking about the younger version of Iris. Remember the girl from the beginning of the movie. And Richard Harmon as Eric. He was in the series The 100. And I like this little tidbit. He was one of the little kids in the bus on Trick or Treat. Remember the little bus full of kids that
they go over the thing.
Yeah, he was the vampire kid in that bus in Trick or Treat.
I have that mask.
There you go. That was Richard Harmon. And he was also in the movie I Still See You. So yeah, there you go. That's about all the notes and stuff I had on. But yeah, this is I think it's a great installment, a great kind of bring it back to form, but also give you something original, overall. So for me, I guess we'll go ahead and get into the star ratings. For me, I say, I gave last week, the first one, when I give it 3 stars. Oh man, I hate to necessarily say I like this better than the first one, but I think in some ways I'd probably be more likely to watch this one again than the first one. But I've seen that one a number of times. I'm going to give it a little bit of an edge. I'm going to say 3 1/4. 3 1/4 star. It's not the greatest thing I've seen in the world, but I think it's fun for what it is. And they definitely upped the gore ante.
Yeah.
I mean, even watching the other ones this past week, I think it's probably arguably the goriest one, right? I mean, you all watched this one. What do you think?
Yeah, probably so. I mean, if it's definitely gorier than part 1, part 4, and part 5. Then you got part 2 and 3 in there, at least on par, if not more than those.
Yeah,
right.
I think it's like even
Kind of even with the part 2.
Yeah, that whole log truck scene is just. I do think that not that it was prolonged gore, but like I think because this by gore I mean like you can't compare this to say like the Terrifier movies, right? That's a whole different. Then there's that, right? There's this whole other subsection over here, but like when comparing to these other movies, I think it has bigger highlights because remember that second movie, there's the big scene, and then everything that happens after that. There's a few that are pretty good, but it's kind of lame compared to that moment. This one is like, okay, you got the big moment at the beginning, but then all the other deaths, they make you like this family and these people. So like, every time we're like, oh, fuck, no, come on.
Yeah. They did a good job of that characterization and also of like this family who is going through things for various, whatever it is, they're being drawn back together, right?
Yeah.
The daughter who's been off of school and doing what she gets drawn back in because of her dreams and whatnot. And then the grandmother who has been seen as the crazy person, ostracized, and the granddaughter finds her and brings her back into, draws her out, tries to, draws, whatever the case, you get to connect with her again too, right? And then so all the whole family gets connection, and it's cool. It's a good, it's sort of good message there, and then all the chaos ensues.
Yeah,
and then they start like, oh man, really? They gonna knock him off already? You know what's gonna happen, but when it's gonna happen, who's gonna be, who's going to be next or whatever.
I will say this just because, this is probably the last time we're going to talk about these movies for a while. So I got to get this in. There's one thing about these movies that I kind of don't like too much is that everybody moves on from these god awful things really fast.
Yeah.
Like you could have something horrible. Somebody's head will fucking explode right in front of you. And then like the next scene is like, man, we got to figure out how to escape death.
And it's not like it's their families, their people. They know either your best friends or whatever, or your actual family members.
Yeah,
that
your
are like
brother, your mother.
Horribly.
Just something
that would be traumatic as fuck. You'd probably be in the shock for a while,
Oh yeah,
I think what I kind of liked about this one though was because it was family. They did kind of like sit there and they were like sobbing and
there were moments of them like kind of sitting down like all right, we need to. This is serious. Now we believe it. Now we need to figure this out, kind of thing. So they're all kind of they get there. It takes them a little bit, but they get there and they start working together. But just overall, all these movies. That was the one thing that I noticed last week when I was watching them. I'm like, man, everybody moves on way too quick. Like you just saw somebody got taken out by a bus, and then like the next scene they're joking around with each other or something. No. I know pacing wise, and it's a movie, right? But still,
They're trying to get from point A to point B without too much.
There needs to be some moment of fucking grief here somewhere, man. Slow down a little bit.
Some levity or something, right?
Yeah, something. Anyway, so I give it 3.5 stars. So Tiana, what do you say? What are your final thoughts and what's your star rating?
I heard this was going to be a good one, and it really surprised me. It definitely is. It's definitely worth checking out. The story is probably what drew me in the most because it's a little different than the other ones. It's not so blah. And like the fourth and fifth one, it started getting really
especially when you watch them literally back to back.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
The two worst ones. Not saying that they're absolutely terrible, but the two ones that I like least in the franchise, we watched back to back.
Yeah, when you're watching them back to back, I agree. It's like, all right, this is bad. These are not. These are less than.
Yeah.
Loved that beginning and the characters and the whole Tony Todd thing.
Yeah.
That was like perfect.
They really do to drive that point. They really do make you care about these characters a lot.
Yeah.
They do a good job in this one for an hour and 50 movie. Where you haven't been, other than Tony Todd's character, you've never been introduced to any of these characters, but you learn to care about their situations really quick. So it has that gravitas that like, oh fuck, I didn't want to see that person die.
And the humor that was in it was like perfect.
Yeah.
Timing too. It wasn't too much.
Yeah, they have like those moments of especially like, well, who is it? The brother
Eric.
Eric, is that the
tattoo
one?
guy?
Yeah.
No, well, there's
No.
him, both. Yeah, him and the other guy who was who they were like kind of surrounding when they would go somewhere. The guy that had the peanut allergy. Or whatever, right?
Eric is the tattoo guy, and then the other brother, Bobby,
when they were kind of like,
guy.
He's like, no, I'm not staying home by myself. You know how many things could happen to me in the house. I saw the book. These moments of humor that are
even all the way down to like their grand plan is to kill him, and then like we're gonna flatline you, and then we're gonna bring you back to life by eating a Reese cup.
Yeah.
And then he eats the Reese cup, and then like, oh my God, that's good. So yeah, you've been allergic to this your whole life, and you finally get to eat a Reese cup, and you're like, oh yeah, that is good.
And then, like you said, there's those things that happen that they make a point of it, so it's going to come back, and that is that machine that he gets the Reese's out of. It has the spring, that lets the thing out, and the spring goes poing, but it doesn't go through the glass or anything. It just sits there. But there's a reason why that they didn't just shoot that scene for nothing.
Not to keep dragging us on, but like I think that's another good thing they did in this movie compared to a lot of the other movies is setting you up to think this thing is about to happen. Oh no, wait a minute, it's this other thing.
Yeah.
When he's getting the Reese cup out of the machine, you think the machine's going to fall on him.
It's topple on top of him because they show the scene about the tilting. Don't tilt the machine type sign or whatever. And he's tilting it, and he's standing in front of it. So that's what you expect.
Yeah. So like they do a good job of delivering something different than you were kind of thinking was going to happen throughout the movie.
Yeah. And then, like I said, they do divert you. I mean, the spring thing pops out. And you think, well, maybe that spring was going to come out and get him. Oh, it didn't. But it's they divert you, but then they come back to it in the spring, the electromagnetic field of that research, medical MRI looking machine that sucks all the metal into it, right? That ends up sucking the spring through him, through into his head or whatever.
Oh, it sucks more than that.
Yeah. Oh God. Oh my God. We haven't even got deep into that scene. I think we probably should here a second. Dude, it's a MRI machine that gets turned up to like 10 or whatever, right? By the way, is that even realistic? Like, can that happen? I know.
No, I don't think so. I don't.
Not to that degree. I don't know.
Field, I don't know.
I thought it could.
I mean, I know that.
I don't know about how far away.
Yeah. I know. Like they tell you not to have
a spring out of the vending machine.
Oh yeah, and I love that too. Like the spring out of the machine comes and catches the dude in the forehead, and it's still twisting.
Or it's twisting like a drill.
Yeah, like it's not a Final Destination movie without it being a little over the top. So.
Oh yeah.
But this dude. He's got piercings all over his body, and they start like the MRI machine gets cranked up to 10. So like it starts pulling the shit out of his ears, out of his nose, wherever he's got them, right? I don't remember all of his piercings. His nipples. Yeah. And then the biggest one, he's got one on his junk.
Yeah.
He's got one. So it starts pulling his pants forward, like pulls it
like
off.
He's got a boner or something.
Yeah. And just drags him into the machine. And essentially, like, he's trapped in the machine face first. So then a wheelchair hits him in the back. And then the wheelchair starts getting pulled through him. So it's folding him in half into the MRI machine. And then that's when his brother comes up. Like, he just saves himself with the EpiPen and then catches a spring right to the forehead. So can you imagine walking into that room? What the hell's going on? Oh, my God.
Well, you see that happened, right? The nurse outside feels things outside start getting pulled into the magnetic field.
Yeah.
Like her card key that she's wearing starts lifting up off of her neck or whatever.
Yeah. So she goes and tracks it down, and then she walks in on that. Yeah. There's tons of scenes like that in this. Like the Iris, the old version of Iris. It's like seeing is believing because she's trying to convince her, Stephanie's character, like this is legit, and she just holds her arms out, and then like the thing off the roof just comes and just spears her right through the head.
Yeah, which she already had that in her book too, right? As a possible death.
Yeah.
I think she had that was illustrated in that book she had.
Yeah. All the way to the very bitter end that that Stephanie and Charlie think they're safe, that they've stopped it because remember Stephanie thought she had. They basically thought like she drowned and they brought her back to life. Well, then the doctor just conveniently was like, no, technically she didn't die.
The heart didn't stop.
Her heart didn't stop. So you just brought her back, kind of you've resuscitated her, but you didn't like fully bring her back from death. And like, what? And that means death is still coming for him. And then a train just happens to derail the Penny again. What if the fucking penny? Yeah, the fucking penny hits the track and makes a train.
Yeah, a penny. And this is at least the second train, not derail. Well, the second exact situation. Well, not exact, but the
Similar.
switchboard.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Because it was a subway in the other one. Which one was that part?
Yep.
The part 3.
Part 3. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. 3. Yeah. Yeah. You're right. The end of 3. Yeah.
Yeah, because a rat chews through some cable.
Yeah. That was a subway.
Allow the thing to switch properly or whatever.
The train derails and slides toward them, and they barely make it out of it. And then I think the cars keep hitting or something like that. And then, wouldn't you know it, one of the cars has logs.
Yeah.
And then
2 logs come over the top and plant their face into the.
Oh, and it's perfect too because it hits. Because remember the order, she was next, and then him.
Yeah.
So it hits her and then immediately hits him. So boom, boom.
Yeah.
Credits.
Makes their head basically explode into the ground as a log. Like
credits. I will say one more thing before we get to your rating, Tiana. We keep adding shit. The soundtrack in this one's pretty good. Through the 60s shit, and even like some of the more current stuff and everything. Like I think they did a good job on the soundtrack of this one.
Oh yeah.
It's not the shit from the first few movies where it's like Coal Chamber or something like that playing.
That era. Once again, that era of early 2000s.
Yeah. So that's all I got. But anyways, I'm sure we could add shit all day. But Tiana, what's your final rating on it?
I think I gave the first one a 3.
You and I both gave it 3 last week. Yep.
I'm actually going to give it what I would probably give Final Destination 2, because this one's probably a tie with me, but a 4.
Huh?
I really enjoy this one. I can see myself watching this one just as much as the second one over again.
Yeah, I'll revisit this one sooner. Maybe not in the theater again, but I'll definitely check it out when it comes on a Blu-ray or something.
Yeah.
I'll definitely watch this one again. So, Smoke, what do you say?
Definitely worth owning.
Yeah, I'd say so, yeah. I actually own all of these movies already because, I think I had the first couple on DVD years ago, and then I bought the film collection. So it's all 5 of them, in one little thing. So I already have all those. Yeah, I'll be picking it up.
Yeah, I thought it was like we mentioned also, like you mentioned, Josh, is kind of like, do I rate this higher than the first? Do I like it better? I mean, I'm kind of in the same boat as you with that too, as far as I could watch this one again more, but then again, I've seen the first one more times. Maybe.
Yeah,
not a ton of times. Yeah. I've probably seen the first one 3 times now. So, I'm not the biggest franchise liker of franchises post 2000, as anybody knows who's been listening to the show for a while. So, another way that you kind of criticize this in a fun sort of way is it's sort of like Saw. And Jigsaw, except that it's the Grim Reaper, it's death, and he's the death. I want to play a game, Yeah. That's what he does with everybody in the movie. So in a way, it kind of bites off of that, but no, it's its own thing. It's it's fine. But yeah, I am going to rate it a little bit higher than I rated the first one, just like y'all did as well. But I think I gave it 2 3/4 stars, right?
You did.
The first one. So I think I'll give it. Let's see. I guess I'll go 3 3.25 for it, which anybody again, that's probably a shining endorsement when it comes to post 2000 movies for me.
Oh yeah, I was about to say that's high marks from the professor for something something recent. That should tell you all you need to know.
Therein lies
kind of a little bit of another smaller debate. Like, would you say that Final Destination from 1 to 6 now? Is this one of the better franchises of the 2000s? That's a debate.
Oh yeah, of the 2000s, that's the key point there, and that's probably the case.
I mean, because that would throw in, say, the Saw movies. That would be the Conjuring movies. Now I know they made a ton of dough, but right, you got to count it.
If you're talking about as a franchise as a whole,
yes.
Because if you take them individually, the first Conjuring movie, I think is excellent. But it's really.
Yeah, and we've been through I think we've watched every single one of them now, except for the Nun 2.
Yeah.
We need to watch that one, and then of course we got the new one coming out. I think in September. I think is when it's coming out. So maybe between now and then we can get the Nun 2 in, so we can get right to the new one. But yeah, like I don't know. Maybe we need to have a Spookshow spotlight or a special episode on that. What are the best franchises of the 2000s?
I personally, I'm going to tell you which one I like. I love the Insidious franchise,
and I haven't seen stitch one of that. No.
Oh my gosh, we gotta get to it.
We'll get.
Maybe I'll try to get to that before we have this conversation. I think that is one worth that. Maybe we'll table that for now because that could be a deeper conversation. But
there's also the ones that I haven't seen that we've talked about before in the Paranormal Activities, right?
Yeah,
I haven't seen any of those.
There's another one
before.
Yeah.
And I don't know about how they are as a franchise. I know like the first one maybe is all right. Right, is better
The
than
first one's good for the second one.
And we do have your Smoke. We do have your favorite franchise to mention too is the Purge.
Oh yes, the Purge. Yeah.
How can we forget?
How about that too?
There you go. Yeah, there's tons. I'm going to table that one for now because I think that could be a whole episode in itself. I think we need to table that one. I think we should have a whole series now that I think of it. Best franchise, say, of like the 80s, 90s, 2000s, whatever, right? Like I think we could probably break it down like that. I'm going to make a note of that. We have to do that. But anyways, yeah. So that leaves us for this one with a rating, overall consensus rating of 3.5 out of 5 stars. So that's pretty high. Yeah, I think it kind of overall, would you say it kind of exceeded our expectations to a degree?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I didn't. Well, these days, I never know what to expect when going into a movie that I don't even know anything about.
Yeah.
And that being said, I appreciated the fact that it was what it was as far as telling the story the way it did, and making it a little bit differentiating. I can't even say that fucking word. Differentiating itself from the other movies in the franchise, and still having some cool scenes. They definitely didn't skip all the gore.
No.
In fact, it's probably added up. As we said, it anteed up on the gore, I think, from the last couple anyway.
Well, to that, Tiana, we'll let you get started. What kind of kill count could you come up with?
For this one, it ended up only being 7, which is the lowest of the.
Wow.
Well, especially a lot lower than the first one.
Yeah, because you get the horse shit. I say horse shit, not in like the execution of the scene, but just the fact that everything you saw never happened. So like, there would have been a much higher body count had that first scene actually happened, but she stopped it. So I guess so. Yeah, I guess that's about right. Because that's all the family that you see after that, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Whole family just devastated in this movie. I mean, it's different, right? Most of the movies, there's like, friends or minor acquaintances, and they all get taken out one by one. But this one's just straight up like, no, we're taking out 2 whole sides of a family. Other than the ones.
There's been some survivors in other movies, right?
Yeah, well, I guess technically there are survivors, but it's the ones that aren't blood. Remember, like the married into dad and the married into mom of the other side. So like they survived, but everybody else taken out.
But I mean, in the other movies, you do have some people that beat death all the way, that do beat death. A few of movies have that, right?
Wait, beat death?
Yeah, they beat death. In other words, they don't. Yeah, see, there's a few, but after a while, though, they started like pretty much. I don't remember part 4 and 5 if anybody survived. I don't think so.
No.
So,
number 3 either.
3 neither. So really, it's just part 1 and 2. It's part 1.
Well, the first one bled into the second one, then the second one, she died.
Yeah.
I like the way they. By the way, Final Destination 2, how they wrote off Devon Sawa's character.
Oh yeah.
He just got hit in the face by a brick. He's dead. Anyways.
I'm wondering if they were pissed off because he didn't want to do the second one for some reason.
Maybe. I mean, because they got Ali Larter back, and I forgot about that. But like, they got her back for the second one. But yeah, he caught it in the face with a brick later on. He's dead.
After all that.
So she just checked herself into a mental institution.
Yeah.
Cuckoo. Let's talk about the kill reel.
Highlight kill.
This is a tough one. I gotta say, the MRI machine. And I only say it because like that'll probably be the one that I'll remember, if for no other reason than the goofy piercing part of it.
Yeah, because that scene definitely had humor.
Yeah.
And it was prolonged, and it was gory as fuck too.
Yeah, and there's some good ones, like we've mentioned throughout here, like the girl in the garbage truck. I mean, they popped her fucking head like a melon.
Yeah,
and they make you stare at it. Like, oh shit,
yeah.
this is about to
And
happen.
then her
Pop.
arm, because she had her hold of her arm trying to help her out of the garbage truck, and then when the thing closed on her head and her whole body, then the arm came off, and she's holding the severed arm.
It's like what you thought would happen in the original Star Wars, but they got out of it.
Yeah.
No, this, like, you're going to see her compact her fucking head, just pop. And there's some good ones, we've mentioned a few, but like, I think that's one of the ones when I think of this movie randomly 5 years from now, I think the MRI machine might be the one. So I'm going to go with that as the highlight kill. So, Smoke, that leads to you with the gore score.
Gore score.
Yeah, and I completely blanking on what I gave the first one.
Just last week, you gave the first one.
Last week, and I don't remember.
Yeah. These things blur together, especially when we just watched 6 movies in a row, to be fair.
Yeah.
You gave it 8 on the gore score.
8? Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this definitely has more. Now my thing is, what level do you put these? It has less deaths total overall, less body count, more gore than the first one for sure.
Yeah.
My challenge comes in when I'm thinking about movies that compare to it. So it's definitely going to be more than 8, which I gave the first one. Then I guess so. But I mean, it could be arguable. It could be 10 easily. But then I can name 5 other movies or more.
Then there's way gorier. Yeah, but then there's the subtle nuances between once again, the Terrifier movies to this. Like, it's a different kind of 10 in a way.
That's definitely yeah. And I think we had that right. I don't know if I've given it yet, but I think we talked about a 10X.
Yeah, well, actually, right? I think you did. I think you did hand one out. Let me go back and look. Yeah, no, you gave it to Christmas Cruelty.
Christmas Cruelty. Okay, yeah. So yeah. And those are going to come in, and I think I've explained this before. Whenever I give the 10X gore score, it's going to be more than likely either it's got super prolonged thing, like let's say Peter Jackson's Dead Alive or Brain Dead, whichever, whether in the UK or the US, the title of that would be a 10X to me because of how much gore it's just a fucking bloodbath throughout the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
But other movies that maybe don't have that much excessive gore from beginning to end, but would get a 10X would be something like Cannibal Holocaust, which has a lot of gore, but in comparison, it probably doesn't have as many effects as Peter Jackson's Dead Alive.
Yeah.
Overall, if you break them down, the sheer amount. But when it comes to the mean-spiritedness of Cannibal Holocaust, when you got cruelty involved, torture or whatever with the gore, it's definitely going to get a 10X, and that's why Christmas Cruelty got the 10X because you can name again plenty of movies that have more gore than Christmas Cruelty.
Yeah.
But because of the nature of what's going on in it, the violence or whatever, I gave it that. So yeah, it'll either have to have something on par with Dead Alive to get a 10X, or something just really mean-spirited violence.
I mean, I think ultimately you can lay it out however you want. This is your thing. But I would say the fair thing to do would be to compare it to the other Final Destination movies.
Yeah.
Not necessarily compare this to Terrifier 3, but Final Destination.
Yeah, and compared to the other ones, it is one of the goriest. So I would be comparing it to like Part 2 and Part 3, I guess, overall. I mean, Part 2 really just has it has that log truck scene, which is messed up, and it's got some other scenes beyond that. But this one probably has more gore a little bit more gore maybe than the second one. So yeah, I guess I'll go with I mean, it's got some pretty messed up scenes. You pretty much have to go with 10, I guess.
Yeah.
Because it just
it may not be prolonged throughout, but when you get it,
when you get it, there like the garbage truck scene, the MRI scene, the log scene at the end, smashing their head. I mean, it's every.
We didn't go into great. Here's one we didn't go into great detail with the lawnmower scene.
The lawnmower too, yeah.
But there's glass in the ice, so you think, oh fuck, somebody's gonna drink ice or glass. Like, god damn, but no, that doesn't happen. The glass gets on the ground. The dad steps on it. Once again, snaps the plank. Right, all the marble shit, and then it lands. It makes a rake fall and hit the top of a lawnmower, which tips it over, and then the lawnmower perfectly just goes right on top of his head. And just bam, chews his head off.
And the rake wouldn't even have been there if the mom didn't.
She moved the rake.
Yeah, she walked.
She was trying to be safe
for the trampoline.
Yeah, because once again, here you think you know what's going to happen. You don't. They had a They had a damn metal rake under a trampoline,
Yeah, and the trampoline is like tearing every time they jump on it.
Yeah. So you think like, fuck, somebody's gonna get impaled on this rake. Nope. So yeah, tons of gore. I think a 10 is well deserved in this one. Yeah. And if you gave the first one an 8, this is definitely a 10.
Yeah.
No question. I'm glad they didn't cheap out on the gore.
Yeah,
honestly,
definitely.
that was my greatest fear coming into it. I'm like, I was thinking they needed to ratchet it up, but mainstream horror.
Yeah.
How it can be sometimes, let's bring it down. I think thankfully we're in this post Art the Clown world.
Yeah.
Where they have to I think they kind of have to bring it up a notch, right?
Yeah, I mean, and like I said, you can get away with more in an R-rated movie now than you could even when the first Final Destination came out, and certainly get away with more than you could get away with in the 90s.
Yeah.
And even in the 80s nowadays,
Well, there you go. So we highly recommend you go check it out. If you like any of these movies, I think you'll like this one just as much, if not more, than all the rest. So if nothing else in that, go check it out. We also need you to check out what we're going to be talking about next week. So we're on Memorial Day. It's going to be our latest Cult Corner. And we decided to pull, since it is Memorial Day, we had to do something that involved war movies, something like that, right? And Cult Corner is a perfect place for that. So we decided to go with one that I believe had been talked about before, but we finally got around to it. And that's Apocalypse Now, the Francis Ford Coppola classic next week. So strap up, go watch the, what is it? Damn near 3.5 hour version. We'll be talking
Redux
Redux.
Or Final Cut.
The Final Cut and then Redux. I think Redux is actually the longest one.
Yeah, that's
Final
right.
Cut's a little less, and then like the original theatrical cut's like 2.5 hours. So either way, it's a long movie. But go check it out sometime between now and next week, and then Monday at 6 p.m. East, wherever you get your podcast, we'll be talking about Apocalypse Now. So for Tiana and Smoke, I'm Josh. We are the All American Spook Show, and we'll talk to you next week.